Hi guys, it's Anne-Marie here, and today we are talking about basic cards and stretch cards. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was basic cards. My basic card formula is you start with a background, add a matte, a focal image, and a sentiment, and you're ready to go. It's very basic, and it's a great place to start, obviously, if you're a beginner, because it is basic. So I have my card base, and I adhere a layer that has been cut to fit. Generally, card bases are A2, which is a half of an 8.5 by 11 sheet of cardstock. So I cut my layers about a 1/4 inch shy of that. So they're an 1/8 inch border on all sides. For my mat, I'm using a square. It's about, I think, 3 by 3, maybe a little more. And it's of pattern paper to make it contrast, at least, contrasting but complementary color is best. And then I'm topping it with a die cut heart that came in this kit that I'm using, the Spellbinders kit. So we're already in background, matte, focal image, or already 3 steps in to a basic card. All that's left to do is to add the sentiment. And it'll be done. We'll be done. Boom, basic card. And maybe it looks a little basic. Maybe it looks a little simple. I still think it's cute. I still think a recipient would be pretty happy with it. And I think that it would definitely mail well because it's a very flat card. However, if you're looking to stretch your card like I am, you're going to add a little oomph to each of these 4 pieces. Just make it a little different, stretch it a little bit more, and just add a little fanciness. So we start with our card base. What I've done this time on the background is I have die cut it. If you look closely, you can see that it has a stitched edge. And so that's what I've done just to add a little polish, a little finish to this background layer. Now my die cut's a little different measurement than my card, so I just trim my card so I have an equal border. And this time for the matte layer, I'm going to do something similar. I'm going to die cut the matte layer with some square stitching dies. And I'm going to attach the pattern paper block to the white cardstock block, but then I'm going to pop that all up on foam tape. If you don't have a lot of supplies, you might be thinking, I don't have fancy die cut frames and I don't have foam tape. There's other alternatives. You can ink, you can layer with additional cardstock, you can doodle with a pen, you can do faux stitching with a pen. If you're looking to substitute for foam tape, you can use Fun Foam from Dollar Tree. You can just do extra paper layers that also adds a little depth and a little polish. So there are lots of options, even if you don't have all the fanciest supplies. And I'm considering going back. I'm going to have 2 really simple cards by the end of this video, and I'm considering making an additional video dressing those up with low to no cost options. So if you're interested in that, leave a comment below and I'll definitely do that. I'll just remake the exact same card, so it'll be with the exact same materials. Okay, so here I didn't have any more gingham die cuts, so I die cut a heart and I used gold foil. I'm also die cut another one from blue, so I'm also going to layer them. I'm going to stack them a little bit so there's maybe a little hint of a blue shadow. Again, you may not have a fancy die cut machine, or you may not have a fancy die cut that does what you want it to do, but you can punch shapes, you can hand cut shapes. Hearts are great for this because you can make a template very easily that you can trace and then hand cut out. My foil for this is coming from a kit, but most of my foil in my stash is from metallic poster board at the Dollar Tree. So I highly recommend checking that out next time you're there. Just look in the poster board section and you'll see it and just chop it. I usually chop it into 4 pieces, and I have a stash of metallic foil cardstock for super cheap. All right, so I'm also going to dress up the background and the sentiment with a little ribbon. I'm just using an old flat iron here. Doesn't work very well for my hair, so now it's my ribbon iron. And I should have done this before. I should have done it before I adhered the panel. I always forget for some reason. But adding a layer under your sentiment that draws more attention to it, especially when you add the ribbon the way I'm going to, it's literally drawing a line to the sentiment for your eye to follow. Ribbon is easy to find off of clothing. I always see it pretty cheap in thrift stores. So there's lots of options for ribbon. You can also substitute washi tape or just even a little strip of paper. Sometimes I'll just mat my sentiment on paper and then cut it like a banner. It's another easy way to zhuzh it up. I also see a lot of seam binding. In fact, I'm wondering if this is seam binding. But that's a notion that's pretty cheap to find sometimes. And it's really nice for card making because it's not stiff at all. It's very flexible and thin. All right, so I'm just tucking the ends there underneath the card mat and sticking extra glue dot on there since I had to peel everything up. And now I'm going to tuck another scrap of ribbon under and tie a knot. So the thing with, adding stuff to a card, it is going to be more lumpy. And so some people choose to keep their cards pretty flat, and they would never knot ribbon because it would make the card lumpy. My workarounds for that are either hand delivering the cards, which frankly I don't do very often, or if I mail it, I'll include like a piece of cereal box or something over the front. So that helps flatten out the envelope so the envelope doesn't get caught in the mail sorters. I also realized I wanted to add a little oomph to my focal image by embellishing it. So I decided to add some die cut flowers. This is something you can do inexpensively as well. Flowers are pretty easy to hand cut, and leaves out of scraps. And then I also added little enamel dots and some foil leaves here. Again, easy to do with scraps, but enamel dots, if you don't have those can be pricey depending on, where you get them. I know sometimes Peachy Cheap has bundles. Sometimes people have good luck with AliExpress getting enamel dots. I have a stash from AliExpress, and then I also, if I ever see any on an Uber clearance, I usually snap them up because I know I use them. And so it's good for me to just snap them up if they're in a color I know I will use. But you could also you could use small buttons, which again, easy to find on secondhand clothing. You could also use Nuvo drops, which a lot of people do. I don't tend to use those because my luck has been that they stick to the envelope. I've received a lot of cards that I'm sure looked really cute. They still do look cute. But the Nuvo drops are like covered in paper. And so and I've had 2 explode on layouts, 2 bottles. So I'm kind of done with those. But you could even just draw in the center if you wanted, or use some glitter glue, or use some watercolors, that type of thing to dress up your die cuts. All right, so I added my sentiment there. It's just a foil love. And now I'm gonna pull some of those embellishments from the die cut. I'm gonna put a couple similar ones around the sentiment again to draw a little extra attention and dress that up, tie it all together. These are strips of rhinestones. They're the Paper Studio brand at Hobby Lobby. And I just cut into them and then I pull them off one at a time. And then I just stick them on the end of my scissors and I kind of move it around so I can see where I want it. And there's the finished card. And the other card is cute. I don't want to like diss it, but this card is more finished and more substantial. I did that also with these 2 pink cards here. And you can just see the different things that I added. Some of them were really similar to the things I added on the blue ones, and some were a little different. Like I used my Wink of Stella, I think, on this one. And I layered 2 sentiments, that kind of thing. So anyway, thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this, please leave a comment or like the video. I would love for you to subscribe as well. And I hope you're having a great day, and I'll see you next week. Bye.